You know the drill. You walk into any grocery store today and you're just hit with this one powerful message, right? Save the planet, save your health, eat plant-based meat. Suddenly, real meat, the food that's literally sustained humanity forever, is the villain. And what's the hero? This supposedly clean alternative. But what if it isn't clean at all? What if behind that promise of a healthier you is a really, really dirty industrial secret? Well, that's what we're going to dig into.
So, that really brings us to the central question here. Is plant-based meat really a plant? I mean, when you hear the word plant, you think of farms, right? You think of something natural. But does this stuff actually live up to the name? We're about to seriously challenge that assumption by peeling back the label and looking at what's really inside. All right, let's just get this out of the way. Our whole investigation starts with one simple idea. That super healthy image, it's pretty much an illusion. It's a brilliant marketing facade that's hiding a reality that is, well, it's anything but natural. We're going to explore how this food is, when you get right down to it, a purely industrial creation.
So to really get this, we've got to pull back the curtain, look past all the green packaging and shiny labels and get right into how this stuff is actually made. And we're going to focus on the main ingredient you see in pretty much all of these products, something called textured vegetable protein, or TVP for short. Trust me, this is where the story gets really interesting.
So what on earth is this stuff? Where does it even come from? Well, I'll tell you this much. Its origin story doesn't begin on some idyllic farm. Nope. It begins in a factory. And it doesn't even start as a food source. It starts as, get this, the waste from a completely different industrial process. Okay, so here it is. TVP is just the leftover gunk from making soybean oil. See, for the big soy industry, the money is in the oil. So after they squeeze and chemically blast every last drop of oil out of the soybeans, they're left with this defatted soy flour sludge. And for years, that's exactly what it was treated as, industrial waste, nothing more. The strategy here is kind of brilliant in a sneaky way. You've got this industrial runoff from the massive seed oil industry. What do you do with it? Well, it's a lot like how sewage plants started calling their sludge biosolids so they could sell it as fertilizer. It's the same playbook. Take a waste product, slap a healthy-sounding new name on it, and then sell it back to us. At a premium, no less.
So the million-dollar question is, how do you take this industrial sludge and turn it into something that actually looks, feels, and chews like meat? Well, it's definitely not simple. It's a whole multi-step chemical and mechanical ordeal, a real gauntlet that this stuff has to go through before it even begins to resemble something you'd call food.
And that gauntlet has three main stages. First up, a chemical extraction. Then, an intense physical beatdown using extreme heat and pressure. And finally, a chemical wash and bleach job to get rid of any unpleasant colors and smells. Let's break down exactly what that means, step by step.
All right, step one. The whole process kicks off with a chemical solvent called hexane. Now, what's hexane? It's a byproduct of refining petroleum. It is literally a component of gasoline. Let that sink in. The raw soy is bathed in this stuff, this industrial chemical, to strip out all the oils. Sure, it's an efficient way to separate protein from fat, but it's a million miles away from, say, just pressing an olive to get olive oil, isn't it?
Now, this raises a pretty obvious question, right? The industry will tell you, oh, don't worry, the hexane just evaporates, it doesn't leave any residue. But let me just ask you this, straight up. If I told you I dipped your dinner in a piece of gasoline, but I promised I let it air dry, would you still want to eat it? Because that is the very first step in making your healthy plant-based burger.
Okay, so after that lovely chemical bath, what's left is basically a protein powder. But here's the problem. Meat has texture, it has fibers. A powder doesn't. So to fake that texture, they use a process called, get ready for it, thermomechanical restructuring. It's a fancy way of saying they force the soy powder through a machine called an extruder, blasting it with insane heat and pressure to completely change its structure.
And when I say intense heat, I mean it. The temperature inside that extruder can hit over 392 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 200 degrees Celsius. This crazy heat, combined with all that pressure, basically denatures the proteins. It twists and mangles them into these fibrous strands that kind of mimic the bite of real meat. Fun fact, it's the exact same technology they use to make Cheetos and other puffy snack foods. Oh, but the fun doesn't stop there. To mess with the texture even more, they bring in more powerful chemicals. One of their favorites is sodium hydroxide. You probably know it by its other name, lye. Yeah, the same highly corrosive stuff you find in drain cleaners. They use that to change the protein's pH, and then, of course, they have to use an acid wash to get it back to neutral. It's just a chemical seesaw. So after all that chemical and physical abuse, what were we left with? Well, it's this rubbery, sponge-like thing. And it has two big problems. First, it's an ugly, unappetizing gray color. And second, it has this really distinct, not-so-great beanie smell. How do they fix that? Well, it enters the final chemical stage. It gets bleached and deodorized until it's a completely blank, tasteless, odorless slate. So now we're in the final phase. They've created this blank canvas, this tasteless, odorless, colorless sponge. And now the real engineering begins. The job of building it back into something that resembles food. They literally have to build a burger from scratch, adding back everything they stripped away, and then some. So how do they do it? Well, they bring in a whole new list of additives. For juiciness, they soak that sponge in inflammatory seed oils like canola or soy oil. To get the flavor, they add dozens of mystery chemical compounds hidden under that sneaky label, natural flavors, all designed to trick your brain into thinking you're eating meat. For that savory, mouth-watering taste, they pump it full of MSG. And finally, to make it look like raw beef, they add red dyes. Okay, after walking through this entire process, from what is essentially industrial waste sludge all the way to a chemically engineered final product, we have to go back to that first question we asked. Is this a plant or is it a factory creation? I think the evidence is pretty overwhelming. Don't you? I mean, look at the difference. It's just so stark. Real meat is grown. It has natural flavor, natural color. This plant-based alternative, it's manufactured. Its flavor is chemically engineered. Its color comes from bleach and dye. They are just not in the same league, not even in the same sport. When you really stop and think about it, the hexane baths, the extreme heat and pressure, the lye, the bleaching, that final cocktail of chemical flavors, the conclusion is just unavoidable. This isn't a vegetable. This is a science experiment you're supposed to eat. So that plant-based label, it's not just a little misleading, it's deeply deceptive. It makes you think of simplicity, of nature, but what it's really hiding is a massively complex industrial process. What you're actually getting is an ultra-processed chemical product. The takeaway here is really simple, folks. Choose real, whole foods. Don't choose factory creations. So was this information as eye-opening for you as it was for me to put together? If it was, I just have a quick favor to ask. Getting this kind of information out there is absolutely crucial if we want people to make genuinely informed decisions about what they're putting in their bodies. If you appreciate us cutting through all the marketing noise, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel for more. Hitting that like button really does help the algorithm show this to more people who might be getting misled. And please share this with a friend or a family member who honestly thinks they're making a healthy choice by eating this stuff. And finally, I really want to hear from you. Drop a comment down below. Have you ever tried these fake meats? What was your experience like? And more importantly, how did they actually make you feel? I'm curious to know. Thanks so much for joining me on this one.